The third sign is this: their kindness is mixed with subtle contempt. This one is easy to miss if you are hungry for harmony. It is easy to miss if you were raised to keep the peace, to excuse people, to doubt yourself before you doubt someone else. But once you see it clearly, you cannot unsee it. Some people do not attack you directly. They soften the blade first. They compliment you in a way that reduces you. They support you in a way that reminds you of your weakness. They advise you in a tone that says, "I know better than you." They smile while lowering your confidence, and because the smile is still there, you hesitate to call it what it is. That is not kindness. That is control wearing perfume. A person who is truly kind does not need you to feel smaller in order to feel close to you. They do not need to weaken your footing to maintain influence. They may correct you, yes. They may disagree with you, yes. Mature people are not always soft, but even their honesty has dignity in it. It leaves your mind clearer, not smaller. It gives you ground to stand on, not shame to kneel on. The fake person is different. They often want emotional advantage. They want you slightly uncertain, slightly dependent, slightly eager to regain their approval. So they mix warmth with little wounds, a joke at your expense, a compliment with a hidden comparison, concern that sounds more like judgment, help that comes with a reminder of how much you needed them. Over time, this creates confusion in you, and confusion is useful to people who want power without accountability. This is where instinct becomes dangerous, because human beings are drawn to relief. If someone hurts you lightly and then comforts you, your nervous system can mistake that cycle for closeness. You begin to chase the return of their approval. You work harder to seem worthy, more agreeable, less difficult. Little by little, you stop asking whether the relationship is good for you. You start asking how to keep it stable. That is the trap. It is not because you are weak. It is because repeated mixed signals can cloud judgment. And fake people know this, even if only instinctively. They may not think in formal strategy, but they understand emotional leverage. They sense where your longing lives. They sense what you fear losing. Then they hover there. You see this in friendships where one person always positions themselves as the wiser one, the more composed one, the one who just wants what's best for you, while quietly making you feel immature, dramatic, naive, or incapable. You see it in romance when someone says they care about you, but constantly comments on your flaws in the name of honesty. You see it in family when affection comes wrapped in condescension, and gratitude is expected for treatment that slowly erodes your sense of self. Look at reality for what it is. Respect and humiliation cannot live in the same house for long. One will drive the other out. So if someone is nice to you, but after spending time with them, you feel diminished, off balance, ashamed, or strangely indebted, pay attention. Your body often notices what your mind is still trying to excuse. Wise people do not judge only by words. They judge by effect. What does this person's presence produce in me? More clarity or more confusion? More steadiness or more self-doubt? More honesty or more performance? That is the real test. Because fake niceness often leaves a residue. It leaves you explaining yourself too much. It leaves you editing your personality. It leaves you afraid to be inconvenient, afraid to be fully human. And the cost of staying too long in that kind of dynamic is not only emotional pain, it is self-betrayal. You begin to abandon your own instincts in exchange for temporary peace. Do not do that. The fourth sign is one that reveals itself slowly. They avoid truth whenever truth would cost them their image. This is not always dramatic. In fact, it is usually subtle. A person who is pretending to be nice often hates the moment when honesty becomes inconvenient. They do not want open conflict, not because they love peace, but because conflict might expose them. So they become slippery. They say half-truths. They imply instead of speaking plainly. They act supportive to your face and skeptical behind your back. They keep doors open in every direction so they can later claim innocence. That is not diplomacy. That is self-protection without integrity. There is a difference between restraint and cowardice. Wise people know how to hold their tongue when timing is wrong. They know not every truth should be spoken in every moment. That is maturity. But when a person consistently avoids honest accountability because they cannot bear looking bad, their kindness is not built on character. It is built on optics, and optics are fragile. I have noticed this especially in social groups and workplaces where reputation moves faster than truth. Someone acts warm, collaborative, thoughtful. They tell you they support your idea, your effort, your decision. But when pressure rises, when criticism appears, when alliances start shifting, they step back just far enough to protect themselves. They do not defend you. They do not speak clearly. They let misunderstandings spread while keeping their own hands clean. This is one of the cruelest forms of false niceness because it leaves you with two injuries at once. First, the betrayal itself. Second, the confusion of having no clean moment to point to. Nothing was said harshly enough to condemn. Nothing was done openly enough to confront. Yet something valuable was still abandoned. You. Think about it. The false nice person often relies on ambiguity because ambiguity gives them room to retreat. If confronted, they can say, "That's not what I meant. You misunderstood me. I was only trying to help." Their shield is plausibility. Their method is vagueness. And many sincere people lose themselves fighting shadows because they are waiting for a confession that will never come. This is where most people get it wrong. They think deception must look bold to be real. But in adult life, deception is often polite. It is often measured. It often arrives in the language of concern, balance, professionalism, family duty, or emotional sensitivity. And because it sounds civilized, people tolerate it for far too long. The psychology behind this is simple. Some people fear moral exposure more than they fear moral failure. They do not mind acting poorly as much as they mind being seen acting poorly. So they arrange their behavior in ways that preserve deniability. They are less committed to truth than to staying unblamed. In marriage, this can look like a partner who never says what they truly resent until the resentment has already poisoned the room. In friendship, it can look like someone who agrees with you privately, then aligns with the group publicly. In family, it can look like a relative who avoids direct cruelty but quietly withholds honesty, letting false narratives harden because correcting them would require courage. And courage is the exact thing false niceness lacks. A person with sincere character may disappoint you. They may tell you something hard. They may disagree with you at an inconvenient moment, but their honesty has backbone. It gives reality a shape you can work with. A fake person gives you softness where firmness is needed, silence where truth is needed, and politeness where loyalty is needed. That is not kindness. That is abandonment in a calm voice. The fifth sign is the deepest one because it pulls the whole subject down from philosophy into life as it is actually lived. When your pain, your limits, or your changing season no longer fit the role they assign to you, their niceness begins to turn into irritation. This is the sign many people do not want to accept, especially when time is involved, especially when history is involved, especially when you have built part of your identity around being there for someone, carrying someone, understanding someone, waiting for someone to become who they promised to be. But life teaches hard lessons quietly. A fake person often likes the version of you that asks for little, gives a lot, and remains easy to manage. They like your patience when it serves them. They like your forgiveness when it protects them. They like your loyalty when it removes consequences from their behavior. But the moment you become more honest, more tired, more boundaried, more self-respecting, more unavailable for emotional misuse, their niceness begins to crack. Suddenly, you are difficult. Suddenly, you have changed. Suddenly, you are selfish for needing rest, cold for asking direct questions, dramatic for naming what hurts, disloyal for no longer pretending everything is fine. Do you see the turning point here? The real question is not whether someone is kind when you are easy to love. The real question is whether they remain decent when loving you requires patience, sacrifice, truth, and adjustment. That is the test most relationships fail, because time changes people, work exhausts people, family burdens people, ambition hardens some, humbles others, loneliness makes some cling, pressure makes some reveal what was already there. And if you spend enough years living, you will eventually face moments when you are not shining, not pleasing, not convenient, not composed. You will be grieving or confused, or late in life realizing you built yourself around the comfort of others and lost touch with your own center. That is when false kindness becomes expensive. Not only because someone disappoints you, but because if you misjudge them for too long, you may shape your choices around an illusion. You may stay in the wrong marriage. You may trust the wrong friend. You may keep peace with the wrong relative. You may choose the wrong moment to sacrifice yourself, thinking loyalty will be remembered, only to find that you were never being cherished, only managed. And that loss is not small. It costs time. It costs self-respect. It costs clarity. Sometimes it costs the future you might have had if you had trusted your own perception sooner. I have seen people carry relationships long after the soul of the relationship was gone. They were not holding on to love. They were holding on to the memory of how love once appeared. There is a difference, a painful one. Look at reality for what it is. A fake person is not revealed by one imperfect day, one awkward sentence, one failed gesture. Wise people do not become hard and suspicious over every flaw. That is not wisdom. That is fear. The mature person is not a saint, not perfect, not cold, not beyond hurt. The mature person is simply someone who knows what matters, knows what to protect, knows what to let go of, knows when to wait, and knows when to act. And that brings us back to the central question. What truly reveals a fake person? Not charm, not manners, not public warmth, not words spoken at the right time in the right tone. What reveals them is pattern. It is the gap between public kindness and private conduct. It is the way their warmth depends on your usefulness. It is the subtle contempt hidden beneath their help. It is their refusal to tell the truth when truth threatens their image. And it is the irritation that surfaces when your humanity no longer fits the role they assign to you. That is what a wise person watches for. Because sincerity is rarely loud. It does not need to advertise itself. It has steadiness. It has restraint. It has consistency across circumstances. It can survive inconvenience. It can survive your weakness. It can survive truth. Performance cannot. Why do so many people mistake performance for sincerity? Because performance often arrives dressed as what we most long for. Acceptance, safety, affection, relief from loneliness, relief from doubt. And when the heart is tired, it often accepts appearances before it examines character. That is not stupidity. That is human nature. But human nature without reflection is easy to manipulate. This is why self-mastery matters. The person who cannot bear loneliness will cling to false closeness. The person who cannot bear discomfort will avoid necessary truth. The person who cannot bear seeing others clearly will keep worshiping the image that reality has already contradicted. Do not do that to yourself. Train your eye. Train your timing. Train your judgment. Not so you become cynical, but so you become free. Free to give trust where trust is earned. Free to step back where appearances are doing all the work. Free to stop calling confusion love and stop calling politeness loyalty and stop calling performance sincerity. That freedom changes a life. Thank you for staying with me until the end here on Guiguzi Strategic Wisdom. If this spoke to something you have seen or lived, subscribe if you have not already. Share this with someone who may need it. And leave a comment with your own thoughts or experience so we can keep walking this path of clarity together. I'm Sophia, the writer behind these videos. I'll see you in the next one.